we're going to clear all the funny Scottish words in the two songs. Let's start with the Dark Island. Here is Scotland. It's up there in the top left corner of Europe. And the northwest of Scotland is an area of islands and mountains, legends, and the last speakers of the Gaelic language. When I was in my teens, we went up for a holiday there, and the people were speaking Gaelic as their first language. Also, when I cycled around the northwest in the 60s in my teens, the main roads, the main highways between the towns were single-track roads. And I don't mean one track in each direction. I mean, it was just one track. When two cars were going in opposite directions, one of them had to get off the road so the other one could go past. Primitive times. The islands out there are called the Hebrides. And the Scottish people have a feeling of nostalgia for the Western Islands. The Dark Island was a 6-part drama made for BBC television in the 1960s, and I remember watching it on TV. Unfortunately, the film has been lost. The island it's set on is called Benbecula. So the Dark Island is Benbecula, and here it is. The music we're singing was written as the theme for the television drama. Oban is a port on the west coast of Scotland. It is known as the gateway to the Isles, as it has steamships sailing from Oban out to many of the Western Islands. The company that owns and operates the steamers is called McBrain's. McBrain's steamers are a very common sight off the west coast of Scotland. Tiree is an island just off the coast from Oban. A steamer is a steamship. Steamers are used to carry passengers and freight around the islands. And here is some heather. The Scots are very proud of their mountains, which are largely covered in purple heather. All right, now on to the song Mary's Wedding. Arm in arm and row on row. Here is a row of people linked arm in arm. If there were another row of people behind them, like there might be at a wedding, they would be walking row on row. Myrtle green. Here is some myrtle. Bracken brown. Bracken is very common in Scotland. It looks a bit like a fern, except it's hugely bigger. It can be as tall as a man. And it goes brown in the winter, so you have bracken brown, or in other words, brown bracken. A shieling. It's a roughly built hut in a remote area for pasturing animals. Rowan. Rowan trees are very common. There was one grew just opposite the house I grew up in. And the rowan tree has bunches of red berries, which are very handy for kids because you get a bicycle pump, you put a red berry in the end, and you get your opponent in the face. Plenty herring. The herring is a fish caught in the North Sea off the coast of Scotland and England. Plenty meal. Meal is coarsely ground grain. The most common one in Scotland is oatmeal, which is the basis for the traditional Scottish breakfast of porridge. Plenty peat. Peat is partly decomposed vegetable matter. It's used for burning as fuel, and these days also for gardening. And I remember a program on TV in the 60s which showed people with unusual occupations, and there was one about a peat digger. He had a sort of angled spade, and he was expert at cutting the peat, so the bricks all ended up the same size and shape. Creel. A creel is a wicker basket carried on your back, like you can see this woman carrying. She doesn't seem very happy about it, though. Plenty bonny bairns. Bonny is a Scottish word meaning beautiful, and a bairn is a child, and here is a bonny Scottish bairn.